All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're diving deep into digital marketing, but with a twist.
A twist.
Yeah, we're looking at it specifically from the perspective of small businesses in Australia.
Ooh, interesting.
We've got this blog post as our guide. It's called Crafting an Effective Digital Marketing Strategy for Business Success.
Good.
It's from an Australian company called Now Technology Systems.
No, wait.
And what really grabbed my attention is how it breaks down these practical steps that any business can use, even when they're up against those big established companies.
That's a big one. A lot of smaller businesses feel like they can't compete.
Exactly. It's this whole misconception that digital marketing is only for the big players.
Right. And this post really tackles that head on.
Yeah.
It shows that with the right approach, even the smallest businesses can really make waves online.
Totally. And it goes beyond just the surface level stuff. It digs into strategies that are super relevant to Australia.
Oh, like what?
Well, we'll get into that, but I'm really excited to hear your thoughts on some of these key points.
Okay, sounds good.
Especially how they'd actually work for someone running a business, boots on the ground in Australia.
Absolutely. I think a good place to start is with that foundation of any successful digital marketing strategy.
Which is?
Understanding your audience. It sounds so basic.
Right.
But so many businesses miss this crucial first step.
I can see that happening. You get so caught up in what you want to say.
Yeah, exactly. You forget to think about who you're actually talking to.
It's like that analogy they use in the post trying to sell ice to penguins.
Yeah. I was just thinking about that.
I mean, maybe some penguins are into ice cubes. Who knows?
Maybe. But you get the point, right? You need to know exactly who you're targeting.
Sure.
What their needs are, what their pain points are, and how they behave online.
And in the Australian context, that last part is even more important.
Absolutely.
Australians have their own unique internet habits and preferences that businesses really need to be tuned into.
So it's not just about understanding your target audience in a general sense.
Right.
It's about understanding them as Australian consumers specifically.
Exactly. And what kind of insights are we talking about here? I mean,
Well, think about things like mobile usage. Australia has one of the highest smartphone penetration rates globally.
oh, for sure.
People are constantly connected, accessing information on the go.
That makes total sense.
So businesses need to make sure their websites are mobile friendly. Their content is easily digestible on smaller screens, that sort of thing.
Right. It's all about meeting your audience where they are.
Exactly. And there are other insights too, like the types of social media platforms Australians favor.
Oh, interesting. I'm assuming Facebook is still big there.
It is, particularly for reaching older demographics. But Instagram is huge too, especially with a younger crowd.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then LinkedIn is essential for any business targeting professionals.
Okay, so it really depends on who you're trying to reach.
Exactly. You've got to do your research and figure out where your ideal customers are hanging out online.
And once you know where they are, how do you actually get that information about their behavior?
Well, luckily there are tools that can help. The blog post mentions Google Analytics.
Ah, good old Google Analytics.
It's a powerful platform that gives you a ton of data about your website visitors.
Right.
You can see where your traffic is coming from, what pages they're looking at, how long they're staying.
So it's like having a backstage pass to your website.
Kind of.
Yeah.
You can even see demographic info like their age, gender, location.
Okay, so you've got all this data, but then what? How do you actually turn it into something actionable?
That's the real skill. You've got to be able to analyze that data, identify patterns and trends.
Okay.
For example, if you see people bouncing off a particular page really quickly.
High bounce rate.
Yeah. That could mean the content isn't working or the page is hard to navigate.
Right.
So you need to tweak things.
Interesting. So it's not just about collecting data.
No, not at all.
It's about using it to make informed decisions.
It's exactly. About your website, your content, your whole marketing approach.
That makes sense.
And speaking of content, that leads us to the next key point. Crafting a clear brand message.
Okay, brand messaging. Everyone talks about it, but what does it actually mean?
It's more than just a catchy slogan.
Right.
It's about defining your value proposition. What makes you different?
Ah, okay.
Why should customers choose you over all the other options out there?
So it's about standing out in a crowded market.
Exactly. And that's especially important in Australia, where the competition is fierce.
True. So how do you actually do that?
The blog post talks about articulating your strengths and benefits really clearly.
Okay.
What problems do you solve for your customers? What makes your product or service better?
Right.
This is your chance to showcase what makes you unique.
And it needs to resonate with Australian consumers, right?
Absolutely.
What appeals to someone in Sydney might be totally different from what works in Perth.
For sure. Understanding those nuances of the Australian market is key.
So it's about tapping into cultural values, trends, all of that, and then tailoring your message so it speaks directly to your audience.
Exactly. You want to connect with them on an emotional level, not just a logical one.
So we've got a good grasp on our audience. We've nailed our brand message.
What's next?
Well, now we need to get the word out, right?
Absolutely. And that's where social media comes in.
Ah, yes. The world of likes and shares and all that jazz.
But it's not just about being on every platform.
Yeah.
It's about choosing the ones that actually matter to your audience.
So where do Australians hang out online? Is it still Facebook, or are they all about TikTok now?
Well, Facebook is still relevant, especially for those older demographics. Instagram's huge too, particularly for younger audiences. And LinkedIn is crucial for targeting professionals.
So it all comes back to knowing your audience.
Exactly. You got to figure out where your ideal customers are spending their time online.
Makes sense. Now, once you're on the right platform, how do you actually stand out? There's so much noise out there.
That's the million-dollar question. And it's not easy with all the competition.
I bet.
But the blog post really emphasizes creating content that's engaging and high quality.
Okay, so no more posting just for the sake of posting.
Right. It's got to provide real value to your audience.
Whether it's information, entertainment, inspiration, something like that.
Exactly. And don't forget about visuals. Australians are very visual people.
So images, videos, graphics.
All of that. It can make a huge difference in how people engage with your content.
So it's not just what you say, it's how you say it.
And in the world of social media, visuals are key.
Got it. But I imagine it's tough to keep up with all the algorithms and trends.
It is. That's where continuous learning and adaptation come in.
Ah, yes. Staying ahead of the curve.
Exactly. The digital marketing world is constantly changing.
True.
So you've got to be willing to learn new things, experiment with different strategies.
And before we go too far down the social media rabbit hole, let's talk about your website. That's kind of the home base for everything, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's the digital face of your business.
And it needs to make a good first impression, especially in Australia. People there are known for being tech-savvy.
They have high expectations for online experiences.
So how do you make sure your website is up to par?
Well, the blog post talks about search engine optimization, or SEO, as it's called.
Okay, SEO. That's about making sure your website shows up in search results, right?
Exactly. When people are looking for products or services like yours.
So it's not just about having a pretty website.
Nope.
It needs to be optimized so people can actually find it.
And this is even more crucial in Australia.
How so?
Well, Australians are heavy internet users.
Right.
And they rely heavily on search engines to find information and make purchases.
So if your website isn't optimized, you're basically invisible to a huge chunk of your potential customers.
Exactly. And it's not just about stuffing your website with keywords anymore.
Oh, right. I remember hearing about that in the past.
Search engines are getting smarter.
They are.
They're looking for websites that provide a great user experience.
Okay.
Think fast loading times, mobile friendliness, easy navigation, all of that.
So it's about creating a website that's informative and enjoyable to use.
Exactly. You want people to have a good time on your site.
Make them want to stick around.
Exactly. And come back for more.
Now, what if you're not a tech whiz? I mean, building a website like that sounds pretty daunting.
It can be. But the good news is there are lots of resources out there.
Okay.
Website builders, platforms, that kind of thing. They make it much easier to create a professional-looking site.
So you don't have to be a coding genius to have a great website.
Not at all. And the blog post even mentions Now Technology Systems as a potential resource.
Ah, right. The company behind the post.
Yeah. They specialize in helping Australian businesses with their online presence.
That's good to know. So you've got a beautiful website. It's all optimized. What's next? Well, now you need to fill it with compelling content.
Content is king, as they say.
Exactly. But before we get into that, let's take a quick break and come back to this in a moment.
Sounds good to me. We've covered a lot of ground already.
We have. From understanding your audience to crafting a brand message to optimizing your website.
That's a lot to digest.
It is. So let's take a moment to let it all sink in, and we'll come back refreshed and ready to explore the power of content marketing.
Looking forward to it. Okay, so content marketing. Where do we even begin?
Well, I know the blog post from Now Technology Systems really hammered home how important it is.
It's crucial.
Yeah. But I'm curious, why is it so essential specifically for businesses in Australia?
Well, you got to think about the Australian consumer, right?
Okay.
They're savvy, they do their research.
You're not easily fooled.
Exactly. And they're bombarded with marketing messages constantly.
Oh, I'm sure.
So content marketing is a way to cut through all that noise
Okay, I see that.
and connect with your audience on a deeper level,
Bye.
providing valuable content, stuff that's informative, entertaining.
So it's not just about pushing your products or services.
Nope. It's about building trust, establishing yourself as an expert.
Becoming a thought leader in your industry.
Exactly. When you provide value, people see you as a trusted resource.
Which is huge for building brand loyalty.
Huge, and it's particularly effective in Australia, where people really value authenticity.
Right, that makes sense.
They want to connect with brands that feel genuine.
Okay, so what kind of content are we talking about here?
Oh, it can take so many forms.
Like what? Give me some examples.
Blog articles, infographics, videos.
Okay.
The key is to choose formats that resonate with your audience.
And align with your business goals.
Of course.
Yes.
For instance, if you're targeting a younger demographic, you might focus on creating those short, snappy videos for TikTok or Instagram Reels.
Right.
But if you're going after professionals, you might go for more in-depth articles, white papers, things like that.
Okay, so tailoring your content to your specific audience.
Exactly. You want to give them what they want, what they'll find valuable.
But it's not just about creating content for content's sake, right?
No way. You need a strategy.
So what does that look like?
Well, the blog post talks about having a content calendar,
Okay.
planning your content in advance.
Makes sense.
This helps you stay consistent and make sure everything aligns with your overall marketing goals.
This is like having a roadmap for your content.
Exactly. You don't want to just be wandering around aimlessly.
No, you need a destination in mind.
Right. Now, let's say you've created all this amazing content.
Mm-hmm.
How do you actually get people to see it?
That's the big question.
It's all about content distribution,
Okay.
promoting your content across your social media channels, your email list.
Right, yeah.
You got to get in front of as many eyeballs as possible.
So you can't just hit publish and hope for the best.
Nope. You got to actively promote it, get it out there.
And it's not just about views, right?
No. You want engagement,
Yeah.
shares, people taking action.
Those calls to action.
Exactly. Those little nudges that encourage people to do something specific. Visit your website, sign up for a newsletter, make a purchase.
All of that. And those calls to action need to be clear, concise, compelling.
You want to make it super easy for people to take that next step.
Right. Now, there's one more piece of the content marketing puzzle.
Okay, what's that?
Measuring your results.
Right. You got to know what's working and what's not.
Exactly. The blog post talks about tracking your content's performance.
To make sure you're getting a return on your investment.
Absolutely. So you need to track things like website traffic, social media engagement.
Email open rates, click-through rates, all of that good stuff.
It helps you refine your strategy and make sure you're not wasting time and effort.
So it's like any other marketing activity. You got to measure your progress.
Exactly. And the great thing about digital marketing is that you can track pretty much everything.
Oh, that's helpful.
It is. You have all the data at your fingertips.
So you can make those data-driven decisions.
That's the key.
Okay, so content marketing is this whole multifaceted beast.
It is. But when it's done right, it can be incredibly powerful.
It can. You can achieve your business goals, build relationships with your audience.
Become a thought leader in your field.
Exactly. All through the power of content.
I'm feeling inspired. But before we move on, there's one more aspect of digital marketing I want to touch on.
Okay.
Email marketing.
Email marketing. It's still around.
I know. The blog post mentioned it, and I was a little surprised.
I get that.
It seems a bit old school in the age of social media, you know?
I hear you. But email is far from dead.
Really?
In fact, it's still one of the most effective ways to reach your audience and drive conversions.
Interesting. Why is that?
Well, think about it. Social media algorithms are constantly changing.
True.
It's getting harder and harder to reach people organically. But with email, you have a direct line of communication with people who have opted in.
Okay.
They've said, hey, I want to hear from you.
So it's like having a captive audience.
Kind of. And because they've already shown interest in your brand, they're more likely to engage with your emails and take action.
That makes sense.
Plus, email lets you personalize your messages.
So you can tailor them to specific interests.
Exactly. And segment your audience based on their behavior.
So it's not just blasting out the same message to everyone.
Nope. It's about creating targeted, relevant emails that people actually want to read.
Okay, I'm starting to see the appeal.
It's a powerful tool for building relationships and nurturing leads.
But isn't there a lot of spam out there? How do you make sure your emails don't end up in the junk folder?
That's a good question. It's all about creating high-quality emails that people actually want to read.
Providing value, just like with content marketing.
Exactly. And following best practices for email deliverability.
Like what?
Using a reputable email service provider, avoiding spam triggers, personalizing your messages.
Right, all those technical details.
And, of course, complying with the Australian Spam Act.
Ah, yes. The legal side of things.
It's important. You need to get explicit consent before sending marketing emails.
No more buying email lists or adding people without their permission.
Nope. It's all about respecting people's privacy and building trust.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
From understanding your audience to crafting a brand message, optimizing your website.
Leveraging social media, creating engaging content, harnessing email marketing.
I'm feeling a little overwhelmed, to be honest.
It's a lot, but the blog post does a good job of breaking it down into manageable steps.
Okay, that's reassuring.
And remember, you don't have to do everything at once.
Right.
Start with 1 or 2 areas you feel comfortable with and go from there.
Baby steps.
Exactly. But even with a step-by-step approach, it can still feel daunting.
It can. The digital marketing world is constantly changing.
It is, which is why continuous adaptation is so important.
Right. That was a key point in the blog post.
It was. The digital landscape is constantly evolving.
What works today might not work tomorrow.
Exactly. So you have to stay informed about the latest trends and technologies.
And be willing to adjust your strategy.
Exactly. The most successful digital marketers are those who are constantly learning and adapting.
It's like surfing, right? You got to adjust to the waves to stay afloat.
Perfect analogy. Now, before we get too philosophical, there's one last point from the blog post I want to discuss.
Okay.
Measuring success.
Right. We touched on it briefly with content marketing.
Yeah, but it's really a crucial element of NY digital marketing strategy.
So how do we measure success in this crazy digital world?
It's all about tracking your progress and analyzing your data.
Okay.
The blog post uses the analogy of a digital dashboard, which I love.
Oh, that's a good one.
It's like having all the vital signs of your campaign right in front of you.
Love that visual.
Yeah.
So what are we looking at on this dashboard?
Website traffic, conversion rates, engagement level.
Email open rates, click-through rates, all the good stuff.
Exactly. These metrics tell you how your audience is responding.
And based on that data, you can adjust your strategy, tweak your campaigns.
Continuously optimize for better results.
It's a feedback loop, constantly refining and improving.
Precisely.
It's amazing how relevant offline marketing still is, even with everything moving online.
It really is. I think a lot of businesses underestimate its power.
I agree. It's like you said earlier, it's that handshake after you've built rapport online.
Exactly. It adds that human touch, that personal connection.
Which make all the difference.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
People remember how you make them feel.
So true. The blog post mentioned flyers and posters.
Yeah, those are still effective.
But what are some other ways you've seen offline marketing done well, especially in Australia?
Oh, there are tons of examples.
Okay, like what?
Well, there's this brewery in Sydney that I love.
Okay.
They're super active on social media, always running contests and giveaways.
Sounds fun.
It is. But what they do really well is bring that online energy into the real world.
How so?
They host these trivia nights at the brewery.
Okay.
And the questions are often based on their social media posts.
Oh, that's clever.
It is. It rewards their online followers and encourages them to come visit the brewery.
And I bet it creates a real buzz.
Oh, totally. Those trivia nights are packed.
It's that sense of community, right?
Exactly. Plus, it gives people a chance to connect with the brand on a more personal level.
I love that. Now, what about businesses that don't have a physical location?
Good question. There are still plenty of offline tactics they can use.
Like what?
Well, partnerships are huge.
Yeah.
Like a graphic designer could team up with a printing company,
Okay.
offer a discount on business cards or flyers.
Oh, cross-promotion.
Exactly. They can tap into each other's audiences, both online and offline.
It's a win-win.
Absolutely. It expands their reach without breaking the bank.
And speaking of budget-friendly,
Yeah.
sometimes the simplest ideas are the most effective.
So true.
Yeah.
Like even something as basic as a business card can still make an impact.
Really. In the age of smartphones and digital everything.
Oh, yeah. Especially in Australia, where networking is so important.
That makes sense.
It's a tangible reminder of your brand that people can hold on to.
You can get really creative with business cards, too.
Absolutely. You could do die cuts, unique textures, finishes.
So it's about making a lasting impression.
Exactly. Even with something as small as a business card.
Every interaction counts.
Every single one. It's a chance to connect with your audience and tell your story.
Wow, this has been so eye-opening.
It's been great chatting with you.
Me too. I think the key takeaway here is that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to marketing.
Right. What works for one business might not work for another.
You got to experiment, be creative, find what resonates with your audience.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So to all our listeners out there, don't be afraid to think outside the box.
Blend those digital and physical strategies.
And most importantly, never stop learning and adapting.
The marketing world is constantly evolving.
And that's what makes it so exciting.
For sure. So take what you've learned today.
Apply it to your business.
And go make your mark on the world.
Both online, A&D, offline. And if you need some expert help,
there are great resources out there, like Now Technology Systems.
They can guide you through the ins and outs of digital marketing in Australia.
Exactly. So don't be shy. Reach out for support if you need it.
And never stop exploring, experimenting, pushing the boundaries.
The possibilities are endless.
That's a great note to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into digital marketing.
It's been my pleasure.
Until next time, keep those creative juices flowing and make your mark on the world.